Guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a very entertaining article, which is titled, Women Are Being Abandoned by Their Partners on Hiking Trails, What's Behind Alpine Divorce? And a shout out to Mr. Arkansas for sending in this article. And guys, just like the title says, this whole article goes into this so-called phenomenon that's really happening a lot, where guys clearly get so fed up with their wives and girlfriends when they're on a big hike or camping trip or something, they leave them behind. And obviously, to no surprise, this whole article, instead of digging into why a guy's pushed so far to do something like that, they're blaming it on big egos. Essentially, toxic masculinity, stuff like that, and bad communication. And while I certainly agree with the bad communication part, and there's probably some big egos behind it, generally it's no doubt because the guy's been pushed so far, and probably his turf, he's done. And that'll be a pretty funny one to go over here, aside from the entertainment value, to make the point, guys, when it comes to big camping trips and big giant hikes, weekend-long treks, and that type of thing, best to leave the girlfriend or wife behind. That's guy time, okay? Unless, of course, she is a seasoned hiker, and you can always tell the difference, okay? And even then, you can question that. Because the way I see it is, most guys in relationships in some capacity are driven crazy by their girls at some point. And they'll deal with it to an extent. Let's be honest, most guys will. But for a lot of guys, going out in the wilderness for the big hike and the camping trip, that's truly like their time. And if they bring their girlfriends or wives along and they start the same drama out there, whether they don't like the hike or who knows what, clearly they're losing it and leave them behind. And while it's pretty funny, I obviously don't think it's a very good idea, and I'll get into that later for many reasons you'll hear, but best to leave them behind. And I also might add here, guys, there's a big difference between, and I got to say this before I get into the article here, and you guys will agree with me, those of you camp or hike regularly, there's a big difference between a big weekend-long trek in the middle of nowhere and camping in the middle of nowhere, pitching a tent off the trail, as opposed to camping at in a cabin by a lake, or just driving around national park, pulling over, looking at the sights, and going on a trail for 10 to 15 minutes with your girl. If your girl insists on going with you and you're not going to back down on that one, or she's not going to back down, then have her camp in the campsite, the log cabin by the lake. Something like that with all the amenities. Or you're driving around and go on the quick 10-minute hike. That's it. Taking her on the long trek is just asking for disaster. But anyhow, let me get into this thing. You guys are going to get a laugh. It says here, as stories of men leaving their dates in sketchy situations go viral, experts say incidents could stem from big egos and poor communication. Well, number one, who are these experts? And of course, blame it on big egos. What about the other things going on? MJ calls what happened to her in Zion National Park small T trauma. She knows women have experienced worse from their partners. By the way, this is coming from The Guardian, so no surprise, or blaming it all on guys and using words like partner. But still, she feels the anger of being left behind on a hike by her now ex. She says, it brings up stuff in my body that maybe I have not cleared out yet, she said. 5 years ago, MJ and her new partner, he was not exactly her boyfriend, and the pair were not exclusive. They traveled from LA to Utah for an adventure getaway. MJ, who's 38 years old and works in PR, was looking forward to exploring Zion, striking scenery. Its vast sandstone canyon and pristine weeding trails were on the list. But on the morning of their big hike, MJ was not feeling well. She could not shake the feeling that something was off. Indeed, MJ would learn on the trip that her partner was seeing other women. Okay, well, that's a D-bag move on his part. He should have just broken up with her. But maybe there's other things going on here. As they made their way up Angel's Landing, MJ's partner started walking faster than her. She says, I could tell it was getting on his nerves that I was slow. It was like, F it, I'll just go ahead with me, and he did it without hesitation. So this is another reason why you don't take your girlfriend or wife who doesn't do any hiking along. If you're a guy who likes to go on these big treks for the weekend or something like that, she's going to slow you down. And you can be accommodating to a certain point, but that's going to get on your nerves. Should you leave her behind because she's slowing you down? No. And I'm just going to say right here, you shouldn't leave anybody behind because, number one, for a lot of people I've noticed there's a code, you don't leave anybody behind. But if you left somebody behind, something happened to them, and they got injured or died, and it can happen depending on where you are. You can be accountable. But, see, she's not in shape for this thing, mentally or physically. It's just not a good idea. When she caught up to him on the top of the mountain, they took a picture together. Then her partner hiked down the mountain with a woman he had met up on the way up, leaving MJ to finish by herself. They broke up shortly after that trip. MJ asked to be referred by her initials for the sake of speaking openly about a past relationship. Last month, MJ opened TikTok and heard the phrase alpine divorce, a label she now attaches to her experience in Zion. Well, okay, he walked ahead of her for a while. That happens. But still, if she wasn't in shape for this, then it wasn't a good idea that they went together, which communication would have solved that. But then leaving her behind and hiking out with another chick, that sounds like a Chad move, but that ain't cool, but still. But I want to know what's going on behind the scenes about MJ's personality here. On social media, women describe alpine divorce as going on a hike, climb, or other outdoor adventure with a male partner. Again, they got to say partner, being the guardian. Only to be abandoned or left behind. Perhaps he went too fast and neglected to wait, or a fight on the trail resulted in him storming off. Breakups have quickly happened. Breakups have quickly followed. Hear that? A fight on the trail. You can all speculate all the reasons for a fight on the trail. He wants to enjoy his adventure up the freaking mountain, and she's slow poking around. My feet hurt, my hair, mosquitoes, all the complaints. Someone that's not seasoned for this type of thing, which results in a guy being dumb and bringing her along in the first place. But still, guys push too far, boom, leaves her behind. But again, I say don't leave anybody behind because you'd be held accountable for that. On TikTok, with more than 4.2 million likes, a woman bawls as she takes shaky steps down a rock formation. He left me by myself, she says. I should never come with him, sobs the woman, who did not respond to a request for comment. Others flooded the comment section with stories about being served with alpine divorce. So this woman got left on a mountain, and she took the time because she is worried about not being able to get down by herself, and she has to get out her phone and record herself stumbling down the mountain. Yeah, if you're recording yourself going down the freaking mountain with treacherous terrain, yeah, the likelihood is you're going to fall on your butt. But she had to record herself and put it on TikTok and get attention. Maybe there's a reason he probably left her, because she's probably recording the whole damn time. Instead, you can all speculate. One woman described a 12-hour journey out of the Grand Canyon after her boyfriend ditched her, during which she was assisted by a very nice man from Norway, who carried her backpack. Another described getting lost in the woods after a man left her behind and immediately blocking his number once she got home. See, apparently there's a lot of this going on, and it's funny. Because I'm sure a lot of you guys have been camping or hiking with girlfriends or wives, or past girlfriends or wives. I've done it. I've gone camping with girlfriends in the past, whether it be a trek in the middle of nowhere and you pitch a tent, or campgrounds, easy as that. And I've had girlfriends that were cool, and I had ones that were not so cool. And believe me, the whining and complaining, you could lose it. You're like, that's it, I'm out of here, But if something happens to them, it's your butt, and you're going to hear it in a second here. Many of the women describe having some level of dependence on their partner in nature. They may not have been carrying the right supplies or enough water, or were not familiar with the terrain, making them feel vulnerable. Such a common thing, says Julie Ellison, the first female editor-in-chief of Climbing magazine, who now works as an outdoor lifestyle photographer. She has heard so many stories about men fumbling outdoor dates. Of course, again, men are the bad guy here. Men fumbling them takes two. There's that male ego element that is not necessarily evil or ill-intended, but it usually has a negative effect on the partner who's being left behind. A recent case study illustrates this point. Last month, an amateur Australian mountaineer was found guilty of gross negligence and manslaughter for leaving his exhausted girlfriend behind on his country's highest peak while he went in search for help. The man, a Salzburg chief identified only as Thomas P., said he was endlessly sorry for her death, and his lawyer called it a tragic accident. See what I'm talking about? And this guy obviously was going for help. Something happened. But Thomas P. could not explain why he failed to wrap his freezing girlfriend in her emergency blanket before heading down the mountain without her. Early in their trek, he had also told a police officer over the phone that he did not need any help, even though a rescue helicopter was made available to them. Well, that's pretty stupid, and who knows what he was doing there. But yeah, the only way I could see you leaving somebody behind on a hike, especially in the middle of nowhere, is if they somehow stumbled and broke their ankle or broke their leg and they cannot walk out of there. And in that case, you have to go for help. They see you have no radio or your phone's not getting service out there, whatever. At that point, then you lead the person with, obviously, shelter, a tent, hopefully, plenty of water, food, have a fire going, having firewood within able to reach, everything they could possibly need while you're away. That's the only way to justify it. Other than that, because right here, outdoor culture romanticizes pushing your limits and flexing endurance. Folk heroes have been made out of rugged men such as Timothy Treadwell, the environmentalist who was mauled by grizzly bears he lived alongside, or Christopher McCandless, who eschewed society to live alone in the wild and later died of starvation. There's this emphasis on strength, independence, and stoicism that is really embedded in the way males are taught to prioritize characteristic traits, says Daniel Jakov, a New York-based therapist who speculates in relationship patterns. Is that guy's last name really Jakov? J-A-C-O-V. Maybe it's been time to change his last name. He says, masculinity seems to play a role in how alpine divorces manifest in real life. Oh my God, again, I'm blaming the bad guy. Masculinity, ego, and stuff like that. No, the girl was usually driving the guy crazy on the trail, and he lost it because that was probably his turf. He had it, he left her behind, which gladly they all most have walked out of there okay, but still. How about addressing what was making him crazy to leave her behind? They want to tap that one. Just blame the guy. A man walking 100 feet ahead of his girlfriend because he cannot be bothered to wait for her is bad manners. But failing to properly care for someone in an environment they're not prepared to handle alone can cause real harm. I can't see how leaving someone in a highly unsafe position wouldn't qualify as an abusive dynamic, especially if the man is aware to some degree that is not what they're doing, says Jakov. Well, I'm willing to bet you that she probably wanted to come along. I'm sure some of these aspiring G.I. Joe women who want to feel empowered and strong and can be like a man and go on and do what her boyfriend can do and learn they can't, right? I'm sure there's a lot of that there. But also a guy needs to have the ability to say no. And again, for you guys that have done a lot of hiking and treks in the woods and all that, you probably can tell who's a seasoned hiker, a girl that's a seasoned hiker. They usually are a little more masculine, fair enough. They're in shape. They typically have their hair tied back in a ponytail. They have a ball cap on because they don't care about their hair. They don't have makeup on. They got clearly good hiking clothes, brown pants, this. They got hiking shoes, sneakers or boots, Meanwhile, usually the wife or girlfriend who's doing this for the first time thinks it's fun, is wearing like brand new Nikes that are white. Her hair is down and straightened, and she's got makeup on, and the hairspray, the mosquitoes are falling around. Those are the types you can tell it's not going to work, and they don't. And I've seen both types on the trail. But these guys got to say freaking no. About 20 years ago, now we're on to somebody else. Naomi, 46 years old, an educator and member of the Wine Hiking Society, a community organization for women that promotes outdoor exploration and socialization, was not surprised when she saw a discussion of alpine divorce on TikTok. She says, it feels like another version of Me Too story to me. My response is well, of course this happens. Let's go back to the Wine Hiking Society. That sounds like a total chick organization. More like the Whining Hiking Society, because a lot of them whine on the trail that aren't used to it. About 20 years ago, Naomi hit Desert Park, 11,000-foot mountain close to her home in Salt Lake City, with two friends, another woman, and a man she had a close but not romantic relationship with. On her way up, Naomi started to feel disoriented, possibly from altitude sickness. But the man who was chasing a goal hiking the highest peak in every country, in every county in Utah, did not want to stop. Naomi requested to use only her first name for the sake of privacy. See, she wasn't seasoned to do this thing, and the guy wanted to do this thing, But now, see, if you're not seasoned hiker, you shouldn't be doing these things. The man and woman left Naomi on the way up. Okay, notice the woman left her too, but they're blaming this all on guys. She knew that they would not come back for her because the trail was a loop, and she feared she would pass out. She says, I felt like I had to crawl on my hands and knees, and I finally made it to the top. How about that? She made it to the top. As many of you guys are well aware that are into fitness, the mind always fails first. Take a little rest and keep on going. She made it to the top, and no, she wasn't crawling on her hands and knees to get up there. Naomi eventually stopped hiking with this man. She says, I realized at some point that every bad thing that would happen to me outside, he was the common denominator. I would find myself in sketchy situations that were way outside my comfort zone, which is often a theme in these stories, either being left behind or pushing yourself beyond your limit. Well, guess what? A lot of people can endure a lot more than they realize. That's what happens. But again, why is she all blaming it on him? The woman left her too, right? But blame it on the guy. If you're not seasoned, you shouldn't be doing this stuff. End of story. But also, guys, I stand by this, and I'm going to back this up. As funny as this is, don't leave somebody behind. You could be accountable. You want to spend your life in prison? Somebody dies? A few years ago, Naomi was hiking Arches National Park in Utah when her group noticed a woman lying on the ground in distress. The woman told them she had suffered from severe vertigo, not ideal given the park topography, and her date had gone to retrieve his camera after she accidentally dropped it into a bowl near a delicate arch. She dropped the freaking camera. There was no way she was going to get out by herself, and we hiked with her back to the trailhead. Naomi said, on the way, they learned that she was on a second or third date with a man. We were asking her, so this might be the last date, huh? Who would take a freaking gal they just met on a hiking adventure on a freaking date? I've had guys comment about that in the comment sections when I do videos dealing with meet up with a girl for one drink on a first date, keep it cheap. And others say, I'll take her on a hike. Now, maybe that might determine real quick if you guys are compatible. I can see maybe the logic in that, but still, that's going to be a big giant pain in the butt. It says here, that said, many alpine divorces do not happen because a man has ill intentions. Maybe like the Australian hiker claimed, he thought he was doing the right thing. Maybe he was impatient or had a woefully uncritical view of the Hemingway-esque macho man archetype that he wanted to embody in nature. Or maybe he had a radically different goal for the hike than his partner, and they failed to touch base beforehand. That's the only thing I agree with. Bad communication. You gotta really communicate. But again, I wouldn't be surprised nowadays a girl really wants to go along with her boyfriend. I can do that hike. I can do it. I can do anything a man can do. Or simply she doesn't want to be left behind because, and she's not cut out for it. And the guy doesn't, he doesn't stand his ground. David Webb, editor-in-chief of Canada's Explore magazine, says that he would never leave anyone behind the wilderness. If you invite someone on a hike, you're basically acting as their de facto guide. Would a guy just storm off on their clients? Of course not. The guy moves at the pace of the slowest member, always. Well, I agree with that. Absolutely. But I can't blame guys for losing it and getting pissed off and leaving the chicks behind because they drive them nuts. But it's not worth somebody dying or getting injured for and you getting blamed. I keep hitting home about that on purpose. But Webb does remember a hike he took years ago with his wife. It wasn't that great of a trail, and it became, in his words, a trudge. Webb forged on. He figured that since the hike was so bad, they might as well get the viewpoint to make it worthwhile. She was not loving it, he said. I did come to the realization that our expectations were totally different for the day. My goal was to go on a mission, and she just wanted to spend the day outside, getting fresh air and exercise, and wouldn't have cared if we turned around. I was a little bit guilty of dragging her on a mission that I had not really communicated about. Ding, ding, ding. Communication's key. A lot of women I've noticed think that a hike is just essentially a relaxing stroll through the woods. And I got no problem with that. That's your thing. Fair enough. But you got to make it clear. No, this is going to be very exhausting and very tough and blah, blah, blah. But how many probably just wanted to go along thinking that I can do it? Avid backpacker, climber, surfer, and skier Daniel Duane, 59 years old, is a writer and marriage and family therapist in San Francisco. He and his wife, writer Elizabeth Whale, hike together near their home. These days, Whale is faster than Duane, but he is more comfortable on technical terrain, such as very steep areas, due to his background in climbing. He says, it's just so awesome to share the outdoor adventure with good company, and yet we often have these personal hungers and ambitions when we go on these mountains. Sometimes that more selfish part of ourselves takes over. He believes most people realize this as an issue in hindsight. I don't think it's very common to hear, I blew off my romantic partner in the mountains so that I could run all the way up the peak. It devastated them and wrecked our relationship, but I'm also so glad I did it because I got to the top faster. I think it's good to keep in mind, with the benefit of hindsight, the narrative is almost exclusively, God, I was a jerk and I really wish I hadn't done that. Some women in the outdoors industry bridle at the gender stereotypes wrapped up in the alpine divorce, chiefly the assumption that a woman cannot take care of herself or has less experience outside that her male partner. Believe it or not, we can do things that have nothing to do with men. Said Ellison, the climbing editor, I really struggle with saying men do this and women do that, and those generalizations. Here we go. Well, I made it clear there are women out there that are seasoned hikers. I've seen them on trails. But again, you can tell the difference between a seasoned female hiker that can go right up the mountain with her guy and all that, and the ones that are the Barbies that are going along just for what they think is a leisurely stroll, and they have hairspray on, and the mosquitoes are circling around them, and brand new Nikes that are white, and brand new clothes they just bought the other day, as opposed to a seasoned hiker. The Barbies you leave at the campsite, or you go for a leisurely stroll for 10 minutes. That's it. It says here, Blair Braverman is a writer, adventurer, and dog sled musher who has completed the Iditarod and Kobuk 440. Personally, if I were with a man and he wandered away from me on a mountain, I'd be more worried for him than me. I think it's interesting that the term assumes that the woman is the one less capable. If there is a feminist spin on alpine divorce, here we go, it's what comes after these women are left behind. When our ex ditched her at Zion, MJ hiked alongside a friendly female stranger and her young son. Naomi helped the woman with vertigo and arches. It happened to me many, many years ago. One user wrote in the comments section of the viral TikTok clip, I met two girls on the mountain and told them what happened, and we walked down together. They wouldn't let me go alone. MJ did not hike for a year after her alpine divorce. She figured her inability to keep up with her ex meant that she wasn't fit enough for the type of activities that she grew up loving. Well, she wasn't fit enough for it. Let's be honest here. When I got home, I was like, something is wrong with me that I wasn't able to keep up with him. It took two of what she calls an eat, pray, love trips to the wilderness of Montana alone to find that spark again. She says, the reason why I love hiking is because it doesn't matter if you're fast or not, she said. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Hiking is something you don't have to be good at or bad at. It's just there. See, this is my point. This is why you communicate what type of hike you're going on. Because for some people, men or women, and there are some G.I. Joe women out there that are just as determined to get that mountain peak as a guy, they want to charge up the mountain. They don't want to take a leisurely stroll. And this chick is a leisurely stroll type. No problem. But you can't put her with a guy who wants to charge up the fucking mountain. And if she starts a bunch of drama over and he's done. The reason why I like hiking is because it doesn't matter. I read that part. MJ is now in a loving, committed relationship with someone in North Carolina where she lives. He's not that outdoorsy. Sometimes he jokes, are you glad I don't like hiking? After her Zion trip, MJ is content to have a personal relationship with the outdoors, unencumbered by a man. Talk about the feminist writing this whole article. So anyhow, guys, there you go. It's an amusing one. And as funny as it is, leave them behind. And believe me, I'm sure there's a lot of situations where an argument comes about for whatever reason, and the guy is done and he walks away, and it's probably warranted, the reaction of him getting upset. At the end of the day, in my opinion, it ain't cool to leave somebody behind. It's a code, because something could happen to them. Do you really want to go to prison if they die on the trail? Is it worth it? No, of course not. But, of course, the whole article has to address the male ego. Guys are jerks, But again, guys, in my experience, leave the girlfriends and wives at home for these big treks. Unless, of course, it's simple, a casual, spending the weekend at the lake in a cabin with all the amenities. Or if you're at the national parks, just driving around, and you know what I'm talking about. You guys been to national parks, you drive around, you see a parking lot where there's a good view, you pull over, you look at the mountain and the scenery, and there's a little trail for 10 minutes, you take her on that. And your wife and girlfriend who's like Barbie with her hair that's been straightened that morning with the hairspray and the brand new Nikes and all that, she can walk that trail. You're not taking your Barbie girlfriend up to some 10,000 foot elevation thing, something like that. She's never done it before. That's a terrible idea. It ain't going to end well for you. But anyhow, guys, that'll be a funny one to go over here. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Guys, I want to hear, have you had an experience like this when you were on a camping trip or a hike and something along these lines happened? Not necessarily left you behind, but it got pretty darn bad, or you realized it was a terrible idea. I'd like to hear about it. Or for you guys that are in relationships that do this on occasion, how do you handle it? Is there good communication? There has to be. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.